and in the end, unfortunately, was poisoned. But if you ever go over Westminster Bridge, you'll see a big statue of a lady with a chariot, and that is her. Now, this is quite a good little spot here. So this is the wall going around the City of London, and so these are the different gates where they were charging money in and out. So this is the original, and we now know that it was probably the second biggest Roman dwelling after Rome in Northern Europe, because over the years we've discovered the Forum. We only literally 20-30 years ago we discovered the Colosseum, except we don't call it that. We call it the amphitheatre. That's it. And this would have held about a third of the population. So it was a big old thing. So we found a lot of different Roman buildings. So it was very, very important to them. And then I'm just going to continue. We'll go past the building of the tower. The Black Death in the mid 14th century. The Peasants' Revolt, in fact, was in 1381. But anyway, let's pretend that's a one. Don't want to point out a mistake, but if you take anything away from it, I don't want you to take away 1387. The Peasants' Revolt was they brought in an individual, a poll tax on people, and didn't go down at all well, and there were a series of battles, and the reason why it's relevant to the tower is because it's the only time the tower has actually been completely besieged, and they managed to get in, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But as they stormed in, they seized the Archbishop of Canterbury, Simon Sudbury, and he was beheaded. And it won't be the only beheading we'll be talking about today. Shakespeare's Globe, which has been since rebuilt. This one burnt down because they were doing a performance of Henry VIII, and they had a cannon on stage which wasn't supposed to be real, and they fired it and it had a thatched roof, and that's now history. But it has been rebuilt, and it's actually, if you walk along the South Bank, it is lovely to go and have a look at. But even better go see it play, and they built it to the specifications of the original. So, and this is very important. So everyone gather round this part here, because in the mid 1600s we went through a civil war. We had a king called King Charles I, who very much felt that he'd been sent by God to rule. He was, I personally think, quite an arrogant man, wanted to do it all on his own. And as a result, he didn't call Parliament for 11 years. And Parliament got quite upset by the whole thing. And so we had this series of wars between 1642 and 1649. And the result of it was he was found guilty of treason, King Charles I, and he lost his head. He was beheaded on Whitehall, and he's the only king to have been beheaded. Wow. So he lost his head in 1649, and as a result of that, we were a republic for 11 years until 1660. So we were ruled then by a chap called Oliver Cromwell, and throughout this whole process, a lot of things, including the crown jewels, were destroyed or melted down, and the money used for war and other things. But what that meant was, after he was a Puritan, Oliver Cromwell, and he banned Christmas and he banned the theatre, and he seemed to ban any kind of fun at all. And so by 1660 we were going to King Charles I's son, Charles, who went on to become Charles II, to say, please come back. It was a whole lot more fun with the king. And so Oliver Cromwell, because he'd crowned himself in Westminster Hall on the coronation chair. And Cromwell had, yes, he called himself Lord Protector. And when he died in 1658, his crown, his Lord Protectordom, went to his son. And so everything seemed to start behaving like a royal family, except without the fun. So that's how I see it. So in 1660, when Charles II came back, because he'd been in exile abroad. When he was going to be crowned, you know, he was known as the king with no jewels because they'd all gone. And so everything was, well, nearly everything was remade, and there are one or two things that did survive, and I'll show you. But you will see the date 1661 a lot when we get into the jewel house because of everything being remade there. So that's really, I mean, there are, well, let's.
And why is there a flea?
Because
They got the rats and the
in
fleas.
in
and the...
1665 we had,
Oh, another.
yeah, we had the Great Plague,
Oh.
where a lot of people were dying. The only great thing about the Great Fire of 1666, which destroyed 5/6 of the city of London, was that it killed all the fleas on the rats. And well, I don't want to take too much time. But the rest of it is rebuilding of the Houses of Parliament, if you ever go to see those, because the previous ones burnt down. And actually, as we go through the morning, if ever I ask a question, or if ever there's a sort of query, the answers are usually burnt down, fighting the French, or lost his head. So anyway, they burnt down, so they had to be rebuilt. But it wasn't until a couple of hundred years after the Great Fire of London that we then established a fire brigade. So this is the establishing of that. And the one thing that is the consistency throughout this whole historical, the whole history of London, is that, you know, we can be destroyed, but we do rise again. And so this tells of the Blitz, which again destroyed a lot of London, but here we are, as happy and jolly as we ever were. So that's the whole of the history of London in 2 minutes. Okay. It's been lovely knowing you.